Hi, this is Gene Hammett. I'm your host of Leaders in the Trenches. And my question this week is, what are you doing about achieving your goals? We're really good about setting goals, but we really fall short in achieving those goals that really mean the most to us. I don't know if you're a lot like me, but I set goals and I really want to achieve them. I don't just do this because I think it's fun or just something that everyone tells you to do. I really believe in this concept of knowing where you want to go and what you want to create in your life and go and create it. And so this episode is all about setting goals and creating goals. We have a very special guest today. It's Daymond John. I have really looked up to what he's done and being a part of FUBU and then what he's done with Shark Tank. And I just, the reason I like him so much is because I really feel like he just gets right to the heart of the issue. And I had a chance to sit down with him after I saw him speak in Vegas a few weeks ago. And we've got the recording here for you, but I will tell you, it's not a video recording. I am on video. I am coming to you after the fact. But we were in the back room of this huge conference hall where he spoke to 4,000 people at the Adobe conference and Adobe Summit for Partners. And it was an amazing, experience to watch him do that, but also to be able to talk to him afterwards. So we talked a little bit about business growth, and a little bit about leadership, but we really zeroed in on goal achieving. How does he see goal achieving and the number one factor that separates the success and failure of your goals? You won't be disappointed if you'll listen all the way to the end. Very short episode this week, but you'll love it. This is episode 312. If you want to share that with friends, just go to genehammett.com/312. We've changed everything from Leaders in the Trenches to Gene Hammett just to make it easier for us. So if you want to share this episode, make sure you do that. It's genehammett.com/312. All right, here is my interview with Daymond John, the Shark Tank Pro. So Daymond, I just saw your speech up there talking to the Adobe partners. I want to ask you, how do you prepare for a moment like this?
They're asking me questions that are natural and real. So there's no preparation for it per se. I mean, if it was a scheduled keynote, then there goes a day of preparation into what points I need to hit. But today's off the cuff, asking me very personal questions that I know I better know the answers to.
Because they're personal, right?
Yeah.
So I write about fast growth and leadership, and I'm curious around what are some of the core principles of successful entities that you're involved with the leadership and what they're doing.
The leadership is decisive. They have 1 year, 3 year, and 5 year plans, which they know can easily be altered due to change in climate, competition, technology. They fail fast. They allow their upper management as well as other people to fail as well, and they give them this entrepreneurial mindset. They make sure they invest in the future because they know that the future is not promised if they're going to keep doing the business the way that they're doing.
So you said something that I want to dive into. I write a lot about this entrepreneur spirit. That it's very common at the top levels. You have it, I have it in our companies, but sure. Companies that foster it at all levels of the companies are growing faster than others.
Yeah.
Are you seeing that too?
I am, yes.
What really activates the entrepreneur spirit from your perspective?
Well, it's to allow people to feel like they won't get penalized for trying, and to make sure that people know that they have to work within a system of other people, that they're not the end-all, be-all of it. So that's the number one thing, this whole thing of they don't necessarily know how they're going to get there. And sometimes, the people they work with are the ones who are really good at data or analytics and showing them the path of what they did. And then you have the dreamers who kind of put it all together. But yeah, they'd be able to work within the system. Like I said, most of my top management they're like Swiss Army knives. They know how to jump into various different areas, learn the system, and bring out the fundamentals of it. Because the fundamentals are not going to change in any area. It's just going to be how you're going to actually execute it per deal or per product or brand or service.
So I just came up with a research where I interviewed 51 of the Inc. 5,000, the CEOs, and I asked them a big question. How do you motivate your employees to take responsibility of those big goals? What would you say the answer to that
Allow
is?
them to set the goals.
Yeah.
So it's really about ownership.
Yeah, it's ownership. Responsibility is something that must be taken. It can't be given. Allow them to set the goals, but also make sure that the proper reward is there. Why are they there? What do they, each individual, what do they want from it? Some may want to be recognized. Some may want financial reward. Some may want the challenge. Some may want to hopefully become a partner one day. But it's a very personal thing. You got to find out. I asked them to put themselves in 2 to 5 words. Put success in 2 to 5 words. It could be 10 words, but once you know what's driving them could be just, I want to be a great father and a great mother, and I want to make sure that I'm home every single day with my kids. I don't want to travel the world anymore, but I know people globally. Okay, well, how can I put the assets around you to help you be that person? Some say, I want to travel the world globally.
Right.
Everybody's is a very personal matter to them. But if you give them everything they want, then the failure ratio is much less.
So what would be non-obvious or counterintuitive to hyper-growth companies that you see?
I've seen small things like break down the walls in offices and put a bunch of standing desks there. Make sure the environment itself is conducive to people who want to work. If we're in the middle of Vegas here and people gamble all night long because they're pumping oxygen in the casino, then why wouldn't your people be more willing to work harder and stronger and faster if you have clean air in the systems around there? People they're at work more than they're at home, right? If somebody's sitting down all day long and sitting is the new smoking. And if you have a standing desk and a bunch of other, the same way, you'll look at the Facebooks of the world and they have full-fledged gyms and healthy cafeterias and things of that nature. It's all about how can you get the best production out of a person if they're not feeling good about their environment they're in. So the environment could be hurting them physically, mentally, emotionally, lights, there's a lot of things. So I find that, because, I've been in a space where I've had creative people most of my life. If you put a designer in a square room and there are no windows there, stats are showing you're going to get 50% of the product you want out of them because they have no place to dream. They can't look outside.
So you mentioned on the speech that you were just talking about, the Q&A, about passion projects, giving 15% of time to individuals to innovate and do something they personally are involved with. Have you seen a specific success you could share with us about that?
Well, 3M is known for doing it, and so is Google. That's how even Gmail came up. I mean, the studies have shown that. In my company, we aren't as formal as here's 15 or 20%. Don't come in on Fridays because you're supposed to do this. But anybody who's brought passion projects to the company, and they feel there's a strong belief in it, we have seen change, and we've seen a lot of things grow. And at first, people may have objected to it or whatever the case is, and that person said, let me go out and bake it a little further and bring it back in, and we have seen it work. And trust me, some of those were my own projects.
That you brought in?
Yeah, new direction that I may want to take the company when everybody tells me, I don't know if that's working or this and that, and all of a sudden, we're finding that because somebody with a passion project, they're going to put in 20 hours when a normal project is their project, they put in 10. So
comes back to ownership again.
Come back to ownership, yeah.
If you can help them, leadership that inspires ownership is driving these companies to fast growth.
Right.
When one critical element of this was talking about transparency, you looked at it as the mission kind of companies that have a mission. But are you seeing transparency across your companies?
I think transparency is inevitable, right? You can come out with this great theory of who you are as a company, and then if your employees are all unhappy and they're talking on their own time on social media, people can't differentiate their own time against the company's time. So if you're talking about how you're empowering them and doing all this and that, and that's just a billboard you're trying to slap around or a commercial you're trying to slap around, but they find out the employees are not happy there, that transparency is going to still hurt you one way or another. And on the flip side, if you're doing great things for these people and they want to be in an environment that they don't want to leave, that transparency also is very infectious to other people.
So we got a few minutes left here because I want to be respectful of your time. I recently wrote a book called The Trap of Success. What does that mean to you?
I don't know. You wrote the book.
I'm just wondering from your perspective.
From my perspective?
Yeah. Companies that get stuck in a drift. They're just
companies or people
flowing along.
Well, companies that get stuck in a drift. Well, they don't get stuck in a drift. Some companies that get, the sales staff goes out and the people go out and people expect them to be perfect all the time. They expect them to over deliver, And as soon as anything happens where they may fall short a little bit, they have to live up to this big high expectancy. So all of a sudden, it's easier to point your finger at them and tell them how they're not doing well. Also, the laziness of the company, the people who get complacent because they think they can't be knocked down, and they don't realize that everybody can be knocked down if you look at it. Those are successful issues that you may have. The fact that you may not, if you're fortunate enough to be like a Nike and make a special one shoe for somebody, even though they're doing $20 billion, if you're fortunate enough to be able to treat the small everyday person just as well as you treat the large corporation. But many people with large success only start looking at the numbers and the number crunchers, and they take a lot of the emotion out of their decisions internally as well as with their some of their most valuable customers, so maybe just one person with a big mouth.
Yeah. So I always have a practical and actionable elements last question of the podcast. And so I want to ask you around productivity. I know you've studied this after what you've been through with cancer and everything. What would be your one aspect of productivity that might not be heard elsewhere that's really driving you?
I don't know if it's not heard elsewhere. I think it's the number one reason for success or failure. It's a conscious effort to set goals for yourself, personally, emotionally, from faith-wise, family to business. I think that people don't realize that they're not in conscious control of the goals they set. They let other people set goals for them. So, the first time I read Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and I read and understood the practice of setting goals, which is I have 10 goals that I read every single night before I go to bed, and every single morning when I wake up. 6 of them expire in 6 months, and the other 4 expire in 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, and 20 years. And I reset them every 6 months, and I never reach them. I only get 20% there, 30% there, but I get closer to there. The reason I read them before I go to bed is the last thing I think about. So what I dream about, the reason I read them the first time I wake up, is the first action I take. And, I attribute that, and Napoleon Hill and Brian Tracy and so many people have written about it. But people take that for granted. So when you're setting a separate goal, like waking up every morning saying, I'm always going to be in an abusive relationship, or I'm never going to get that job, or that's never happened in the world, or, I didn't come from a wealthy background, or things of that nature, you're setting a different goal that I promise you will hit. You will stay in an abusive relationship, or will never get that job, or will never leave that job. If every single morning when you're in the train, thinking about how sorry your life is and how everybody else is doing better, then your life will always be sorry and everybody else will do better.
Well, I appreciate you sharing your insight there. Thanks for being here at Leaders in the Trenches and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you.
All right, so hopefully you've really listened in to what Daymond had to say about goal setting, because I have been using exactly what he said to do. Every night before bed, I look at my goals. I think about my goals. I say my goals. I'm really looking at how do I put this inside my conscious mind and unconscious mind, if that means anything to you. But I wake up every day thinking about those goals. And I really think about the next 3 things I'm going to do to move them forward. So hopefully you're looking at this and you're seeing what you could do to change your goal achieving habits. All right. My name is Gene Hammett. I'm with Leaders in the Trenches. This is episode 312. You can find it at genehammett.com/312. And as always, lead with courage. And if this is helping you in any way, please reach out to me. Let me know. I'll talk to you soon. See you next time.